debates during the next 10 days. And you can get scheduling information by logging onto our website at cspan.org/politics. Joining us from Los Angeles is former Congresswoman, now Green Party presidential nominee, Cynthia McKinney. Thanks very much for being with us.
Thank you so much for inviting me to be with you this morning.
Let me begin with the platform that the Green Party has drafted and that you've approved. What do you think is the biggest difference between what you're providing, what you're outlining, and what some may compare to the similarities to the Democratic Party?
Well, of course, the Green Party has a platform that's based on its 4 pillars that it would like to see reflective of public policy reflective of its 4 pillars. That's grassroots democracy, peace, social justice, and of course, ecological wisdom. Now, people can go to our website, runcynthiarun.org, and there you will see the Power to the People campaign platform, which is a bit more expansive. For example, we call for the repeal of NAFTA, a single-payer health care system, like a Medicare for All type of system in our country. We call for the elimination of the prisons for profit, the prison industrial complex, a cessation of the reliance on military force. Of course, we call for immediate withdrawal of our troops from Iraq and Afghanistan and the over 100 countries around the world in which U.S. troops are stationed. We also have recently called, with respect to the bailout, we've called for a national banking system that is owned and controlled by the people of this country, that would issue credit for the necessary investments that, of course, we see that are needed. And we believe in a full employment economy. And so that means then that we would invest in infrastructure. We would invest in greening our economy. We would invest in manufacturing the technology in order to green our economy. And then, of course, we look at the experiences of other countries around the world. For example, in Venezuela, where we just recently read that Hugo Chavez is allowing people to change their motor vehicles from the petroleum-based cars, of which we are quite familiar, to CNG-based cars. Just imagine what we could accomplish if we had the kind of political will and the kind of vision that is reflective of the Green Party's 4 pillars, that is also reflective of our Power to the People platform.
Well, let me ask you about 2 aspects, again, of what's in your platform and also on your website. You talk about decentralization of wealth, saying that the centralization of wealth and power has contributed to the social and economic injustices in this country. How do you do that?
Well, actually, you know, Alan Greenspan, basically during the time when I was in Congress and served on the Budget Committee, I noted the income inequality in this country and the contribution to that income inequality of the Bush tax cuts. And even Alan Greenspan, who recently acknowledged his culpability in the crisis that is confronting us today, acknowledged that it is not sustainable to have 2 Americas, an America of haves and have-nots. And that's basically an America that is squeezing out the middle class and denying people the opportunity for gainful employment. So we believe that people should have the opportunity to work, and that work should be something that contributes to the well-being, the overall well-being of our country and our community. And so therefore, we can look at infrastructure investment. People in Michigan, for example, it's amazing to me to learn that in Detroit, Michigan, people are experiencing foreclosures for failure to pay their water bills. And guess what? Their water bills for 1 month are $3,000, $4,000. Clearly, the need for infrastructure investment. We've seen bridges collapse. We've seen our infrastructure. We know that we need to invest in our infrastructure, but it isn't happening. This could be done if we had a national banking system that would issue credit so that we could have these investments. But also, one of the things that people really don't understand is that the Federal Reserve isn't even federal. And so therefore, every dollar that's printed is in essence a debt. But that debt is not to the common good or the people at large. The debt is to private bankers. And so we see the need to nationalize the Federal Reserve as well.
Our guest is Cynthia McKinney, who's joining us from Los Angeles. We have a phone line set aside for those of you who support the Green Party nominee. That number is 202-628-0205. And we have lines for those of you who support Senator McCain and Senator Obama. One other part of your platform on feminism and gender equality, saying that we still have male domination in politics and in the economy. There are about 100 women in the U.S. House and the Senate, 74 in the House, 16 in the Senate. Do you feel that you're making inroads, or is it still dominated by men?
Well, you know, when I first decided to run for office, and that was to the Georgia legislature, my father was already in the Georgia legislature at that time. And basically what he told me is, Cynthia, you're about to enter a man's world. And we have made important strides. We do have more women elected to office, but we still need more women elected to office. Now, you just had a discussion about the situation in Georgia, and I just left Georgia. And there's one situation that I think we need to have a real discussion about, and that is the presence of these electronic voting machines. Just yesterday, I wrote a letter to Tennessee Board of Elections because it came to my attention that the voting machines in Tennessee were flipping the votes. And in this particular case that was reported, the machines were flipping the votes from Obama to McKinney. Now, of course, I want to receive all of the votes that are reflective of the will of the voters, but I don't want to receive one vote that is not reflective of the will of the voters. And so I wrote a letter to the Tennessee Department of State asking them to please do whatever is necessary within all rules and regulations to ensure that the vote tally, not only in Tennessee, but of course in Tennessee, but across our country, is one that is reflective of the will of the people who actually cast their ballots.
And our first call is from Atlanta. Good morning to you, caller.
How you doing? And how you doing, Ms. McKinney?
Hi.
My question for you, Ms. McKinney, I have a lot of relatives who are on the fence as far as supporting you, Barack Obama. And I was wondering if you could, real quick, if you can give people listening, if there were 4 serious issues as far as why you think you're better than Barack Obama, what are those 4 issues and why?
Well, first of all, I've chosen to leave the Democratic Party. And basically, I made a decision, actually it was on my birthday of last year, when the Democratic majority in Congress was poised to renew funding for the war in Iraq and the war in Afghanistan. And I did a political survey, and what I saw was that the Democratic majority in Congress had not repealed the Patriot Act. They had not instituted a livable wage. They had not provided for a single-payer health care system in our country. And yet, this national leadership of the Democratic Party was poised to make itself and our country once again complicit in war crimes, torture, crimes against humanity, and crimes against the peace. And as someone who values peace, and I understand that the reason we participate in the political process is so that our values can be reflected in public policy. It was clear to me that the Democratic Party no longer reflected my values. The Green Party had come to me previously and asked me to be on their national ticket. And when I looked at the platform of the Green Party with its insistence on peace, its insistence on social justice, inside the Green Party's platform are the values that I hope my country can live by. And that's why I decided to leave the Democratic Party.
Our next call is from New Paltz, New York. Good morning to you.
Good morning. The problem I have is I listen to this program every morning, and you have this lady here that is talking about a $3,000 a month water bill. That's physically impossible unless there's something wrong with the water system. The faucets are running continuously and leaking. There has to be a problem There's never a $3,000 water bill. You could sue the state for that. So that's a false thing, because now you're saying you want to get money from the government to come in and pay the bill instead of fixing the problem.
Okay,
Then you got a
stay on the line. We'll follow up with you, caller, okay?
Well, actually, I'm not saying that we want to pay the bill. I say we want to fix the problem. And that's what infrastructure investment means, is that we would fix the problem. We've got these kinds of problems everywhere, and I'm sorry if the gentleman doesn't believe that people can receive $3,000 water bills. Just contact the Michigan Welfare Rights Center, and there they established a water commission, and I actually happen to be a commissioner on that water commission, and heard testimony from people who have these kinds of outrageous water bills.
We'll go back to the caller for a follow-up.
Yes, well, I'm in the construction business, so I know for a fact that that's impossible unless you're floating boats in your front yard, or you're supplying the neighborhood with water out of one house. That's impossible to do.
I agree with the caller that the issuance of a $3,000 water bill it's impossible to use that much unless you're doing something industrial, but these are residences. And there were 70,000 water shutoffs in the previous year in Michigan alone.
A couple of quick questions. First of all, how many members are there nationwide of the Green Party?
There are over 200 local elected officials who represent the values of the Green Party. And basically what we ask people to do is to vote their values. There is an alternative, and we invite people to go to gp.org and look at the 4 pillars and the 10 key values of the Green Party. And so, for example, when an issue comes to peace, the Green Party was among the first to call for peace, to withdraw our troops, not to even enter Iraq in the first place. With respect to social justice, the Green Party acknowledges reparations, for example, and the need for reparations as a result of the transatlantic slave trade. It acknowledges the fact of police brutality and racial profiling, racial and ethnic profiling in terms of social justice. In fact, we've got a young man who has been sentenced to die in my former home state of Georgia, Troy Davis. Of 9 witnesses, 7 of them recanted. Some of them even admitted that there was police coercion. And yet this young man is about to die. We've not seen a discussion of the death penalty. Social justice is a key pillar for the Green Party. Ecological wisdom is a key pillar of the Green Party. Now that we scientists agree that we are in the midst of climate change, what is our response going to be? We certainly can't bury our head in the sand. We must respond, and we must live harmoniously with nature, something that the Green Party has stood for a very long time.
Do you own a hybrid car?
I don't own a hybrid car.
Do you recycle?
Actually, I advocate electric vehicles, and I do recycle, but unfortunately in California, yes, we do recycle. In Georgia and many places around the country, there's not yet official recycling programs, but yes, I do recycle.
And finally, how many states will your name appear on the ballot?
32 states we're on the ballot. We can write in my name and my running mate's name, Rosa Clemente, in 17 states. Georgia is a write-in state. North Carolina is a write-in state. New York State is on the ballot. Michigan, I'm on the ballot. Pennsylvania is a write-in state. California, I'm on the ballot.
Our next call is from Cave Spring, Georgia. Good morning.
Good morning. Ms. McKinney, I would like to commend you on your work throughout history, what you tried to accomplish. And at this time, though, I feel like, you should get behind Barack Obama. I feel like a lot of the struggles and things which you people were speaking about and going through, I feel like this is a culmination, of what really should happen. And I feel like you all should be a part of this, because I feel like you all are the ones who really laid the groundwork for what he's doing.
Thank you, caller. Your response, Ms. McKinney?
Yes, I really appreciate the caller and the sentiments that he's expressed. And I am in support of anyone and any political party that will advocate my values for peace, social justice, ecological wisdom, and election integrity. And unfortunately, I had to leave the Democratic Party, and I found the Green Party. And what I've also found as I've traveled around this country is that there are a lot of people who completely left the political process altogether because they understood that the two-party paradigm did not serve their values. And now what we are encouraging them to do is to join in the political process once again. We want to bring more people into the process. We want the process in this country to be reflective of the entire menu of options that are available. For example, for those of us who believe in a single-payer healthcare system, 5,000 physicians just last week signed a letter saying that a single-payer healthcare system in this country is the only morally and fiscally responsible way to organize healthcare delivery in our country. And yet, we get that neither from the Democrats nor the Republicans. No one who is invested in the status quo special interests that prevail in Washington, D.C. are going to be able to advocate the radical common sense changes and policies that are, I believe, reflective of the values of the majority of the people in this country. And so we've got to have someone who is willing to stand up and do that. I think the members of the Green Party are willing to do that. They are doing that, and they have very firm core values that we would like to see in public policy. We will advocate for peace, social justice, ecological wisdom, and election integrity no matter who's in the White House. We've done it for the 8 years of the George Bush administration, and let me just say, based on two presidential elections that were stolen. Now we've got a situation where we still don't have election integrity, especially when I have to write a letter to the Board of Elections in Tennessee asking them to please correct their machines.
Our guest is Cynthia McKinney, who spent a decade representing the Atlanta area in the House of Representatives. She's now the nominee of the Green Party. Our next call is Magnolia, Texas. Good morning to you.
Good morning. How you doing there, Cindy?
Good morning.
You know, being that you got out, I always believed that the reason there's a Democrat and Republican Party, that both of them, as far as mainline, are on the same lead. I don't think Obama's going to get us out of Iraq. And I just believe that you keep hearing about George Bush and them. I think they know what they're doing. They're leaving office, and we're going bankrupt. And they're going to get rid of Social Security, Medicare, and everything without Congress because they bankrupt the country.
Thanks for the call.
I appreciate the caller, and we also put out a 14-point warning that to the voters with respect to the bailout. And one of the points among those 14 points, and it's also available on our website, runcynthiarun.org, is the idea of the appointment of the former Comptroller General David Walker, who was charged with auditing the books for the United States government, to audit all of the books of those who have received money as a result of the bailout legislation. Even in consideration of the bailout legislation, let it be clear that there was never an opportunity really to consider a full array of possibilities with respect to what happened. The White House promoted a particular view, and that view was voted on by the Congress, and even though it was voted down the first time, basically it was the same piece of legislation. We have to have some accountability, transparency, and openness in this entire process, which we're not experiencing now. But if we had a vibrant opposition party in this country that would look at the writings of the former Comptroller General David Walker while he was in office. He left office because members of Congress were not heeding his call to pay attention to the financial tsunami that was going to engulf our country. Now it is happening, and I can think of no one better poised to investigate, audit, and track all of the transactions that are occurring as a result of the infusion of taxpayer dollars into these private corporations.
What measure will you use, Cynthia McKinney, to determine whether or not your candidacy as the Green Party nominee was successful?
Well, actually, I would have to say that we've already been successful because I have been on the platform with so many people who have said that they had never voted in their lives. They had never before been seen a relevancy to their vote. And with the younger people, my running mate, Rosa Clemente, who has lived her entire life very active as a part of the politically active hip-hop generation, has encouraged young hip-hop artists, in fact, to become politically active, to become politically involved, and to actually register and vote. And then we've got people who have been turned off from the two-party system for a long time, and some of them are former Democrats, former Republicans, former independents, but they now have decided that they are going to register and vote. Some of them for the very first time. So that is my measure. And the extent to which we can encourage people to run for office, we would love to see people run for office. The extent to which we can build the kind of movement in this country that will oppose more war, how is it that we can spend $720 million every day for war and occupation? The Pentagon comes to the Congress and asks for $500 billion, and Donald Rumsfeld admits that, well, you know, we lost $2.3 trillion, but the United States can afford it. And the Congress cave in time and time and time again without holding these, at least the Pentagon, accountable for the money that it receives.
Omaha, Nebraska, you're next. Good morning with Cynthia McKinney, the Green Party presidential nominee. Omaha, you with us? We'll go to Springfield, Massachusetts. You have the last call. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I love your hair, number one.
Oh, thank you.
And I enjoyed watching you in Congress. And I am a Democrat, and I am for Obama, but if there's some way you and him can get together and talk before the election, I think that it would bring so much power to the people. And I support you in what you're doing, and I'm a registered Democrat, but the two of you are on the same thought process. My only biggest fear is that what you found in Tennessee will occur all over, and they will say that the vote was split because you were on the ballot.
We'll get a response. Thank you very much for calling from Massachusetts.
Thank you so much. And you're absolutely right that we have got to have election integrity. In 2000, 1 million blacks went to the polls and they voted, and their votes weren't counted. And unfortunately, the Democrats didn't fight hard enough to ensure election integrity. In 2004, John Kerry made a promise that we wouldn't see a repeat of 2000. And yet, the very next day after the election, John Kerry conceded. And honestly, it was the Libertarian Party and the Green Party that put people on the ground in Ohio and investigated all of the reports of disfranchisement. It is quite possible that we can see an election result that is not reflective of the will of the people, but is reflective of those electronic voting machines that have incorrectly tallied the election. That is something that we have to guard against and utilize every aspect of our power as voters to ensure that the election result that is announced is one in which we can have confidence.
Finally, do you have any desire or goal to return to Congress?
A lot of people have ideas about what I can do. And in fact, the caller talked about Obama and I getting together, and many people even suggest that as well, because they like the values and the policy suggestions that I put forward as a member of the Green Party. So we will see what tomorrow holds, and of course I'm open to all eventualities.
Cynthia McKinney, former member of House, a Democrat from Georgia. She's now the nominee of the Green Party. You can log on to their website. A couple of different web locations, including votetruth08.com and the Green Party website, all linked through cspan.org. Thanks for joining us this morning from Los Angeles. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to turn our attention to a project that C-SPAN will be unveiling today and showing you during the course of a week in mid-December. We'll also open our phone lines and hear from Republicans only about the state of this race and whether or not Republicans think John McCain can win in this presidential election. It is Friday, October 24th. The Washington Journal continues in just a moment.
The Labor Department